Right, welcome back. It's 18 minutes before 7 here on the program. If there was one story trending this weekend, in fact, there was really only one story that was dominating. It all had to do with load shedding. People were frustrated at Eskom for first announcing stage 2 load shedding and then escalating it to stage 4 in just a matter of hours. The major complaint was that of Eskom getting a Nersa approved electricity hike of 9.41%, 8.1% and 5.2% for the next 3 financial years. And yet they could not deliver enough power over the weekend. Let us get a little bit of analysis on all of this and the latest bout of load shedding from energy analyst Chris Yelland. He joins us on the line. Chris, it's always good having you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me on the show.
It's a pleasure. So, Chris, one of the big reasons that Eskom was blaming this weekend's disastrous weekend on electricity was because of what was happening in Mozambique. Now, I know that you have come out guns blazing saying this excuse just does not fall well with us. Talk to us about what's going on.
Yeah, look, Gordhan and the problems in Mozambique certainly do play a part in the shortage of power capacity from Eskom over the weekend, but certainly not the major part. Something like 1,400 megawatts of power from Mozambique was down, but at the same time, something like 5,000 megawatts of power was down as a result of boiler tube leaks on Eskom's coal-fired power plant. And there are many other problems at Eskom, including running out of diesel at its open-cycle gas turbines, to take another 2,000 megawatts off the grid. So you can see clearly that the problems in Mozambique, while they do play a part, are not the major part.
I want to just pick your brain a little bit on the comment that you made, saying that South Africa is out of diesel, and that's one of the major issues, if not the biggest issue facing Eskom. What do you mean by this?
Well, in the Western Cape, Eskom has some 2,000 megawatts of diesel-powered open-cycle gas turbines. These use enormous amounts of diesel when they run continuously or for extended periods of time. You may have seen there was a press release by the Department of Public Enterprises yesterday early evening, confirming that both South Africa and Eskom were running short on diesel, and this means that the emergency power supplies cannot kick in at times when they are needed most. Effectively, you're taking 2,000 megawatts off the grid and contributing even more than Gordhan to the problems of yesterday.
Yeah. So, I mean, this obviously is one of the biggest things that we need to look into this, very, very much so. There's also talk that what we were saying was that government is dragging its feet regarding the promulgation of the small-scale embedded generation regulations. Let first get an explanation on this, because I mean, not everybody understands it. And in what way are government actually doing this?
Yeah. Look, one of the quickest wins to bring new generation on capacity onto the grid is to unshackle and to remove the restrictions facing the so-called small-scale embedded generation sector. This is really rooftop solar PV installed on houses, on shops, on buildings, on parking lots, on roof space, on warehouses, factories, mines, etc. And of course farms. There are some 2,000 megawatts of applications for small-scale embedded generation, which are backed up at Nersa, pending the promulgation of the new regulations governing small-scale embedded generation from 0 to 1 megawatt and from 1 megawatt to 10 megawatts. The lack of these regulations is inhibiting and preventing these applications from proceeding, and thereby stopping one of the most promising short-term solutions to relieve Eskom of its burden. This small-scale embedded generation is a quick win. It can be brought to bear in about 6 to 8 months. And we really need to unshackle the customer from being part of the solution. Customers can pay for this. It has no cost implications for government. The government does not have to fund it. There's plenty of money available for funding small-scale embedded generation. In fact, the DBSA, the Development Bank of Southern Africa, recently announced $100 million US, plus a further 100 million from private financial institutions to fund small-scale embedded generation. So it's not a problem with money. It's not a problem with the will of the customer to be part of the solution. It's a problem of the regulations which are holding the customer back.
Yeah. Also, you talked to the fact about contracting IPPs to supply electricity to municipalities. And that's a big thing. And I suppose we need a little bit of explanation there. Can municipalities generate their own electricity or get IPPs to do it for them as it stands right now? Or is that what a big stumbling block is as well?
Yes, this is a big stumbling block. It is possible to get licenses for this, but it requires a ministerial determination. It requires a Nersa to give a license, and it's a very difficult process because the current business model is that Eskom is the single buyer of electricity in South Africa, and therefore municipalities are not just free to either procure from IPPs or install their own generation capacity. They need permission from the authorities, from the minister and from Nersa. And this is another area that is being challenged in courts by the City of Cape Town. And municipalities around the country are watching this closely because this is another quick win if municipalities can come to the table and assist Eskom. Of course, not all municipalities can do this. They don't all have the technical capability. But certainly the bigger metros can play a very significant part.
Yeah. You talk about court action, and we also do know that the Coal Transporters Forum are going to court, and they want all of the issues around the IPP to be stopped because they fear for the loss of jobs. And yet, you very much so for the IPPs. Talk to us about what's going to go down there. I mean, especially in the background where today we've been told we're going to have stage 4 load shedding again.
Yeah, we're going to watch the court application by the Coal Transporters Forum. My particular view is this is a very small group with vested commercial interests in the supply and delivery of coal by truck. The problems are that their business is declining. This has got nothing to do with IPPs, but everything to do with the fact that Eskom is transporting coal wherever possible by rail. Road transport is extremely expensive, and it's very disturbing that these coal truck drivers, supported and aided and abetted by Mr. Marcellus Coco, are doing everything possible to protect their vested interests at the expense of the whole country, the economy, and they're really trying to hold South Africa to ransom. It's highly ironic that they could be arguing this in court today when we have load shedding today. They've been arguing that there's a surplus of generation capacity and that IPPs should therefore be closed down. There's clearly not a surplus of the generation capacity. We are 4,000 megawatts short today, and already today, if there were not IPPs generating electricity in the grid, we would not have stage 4 load shedding. We would have stage 6 load shedding. Sure. At the moment, IPPs are contributing to keeping the lights on.
Yeah. All right, let's move back to Eskom now, because we all know the increases that are coming our way. Eskom's been granted tariff increases. I said it in the intro, 9.4%, 8.1% and 5.2% for the next 3 financial years. I mean, do you really even think that this money is going to help the SOE? I mean, will all of this money be spent efficiently?
Well, the biggest problem with price increases that are simply pushing up the price of electricity to cover ever-increasing costs is that as the prices go up, more and more businesses become uncompetitive. Investment in South Africa becomes less and less attractive. Uncertainty of the price trajectory means that people hold back on new projects. Customers use electricity sparingly, so they use less and less power because it's becoming more and more expensive. I mean, even consumers in households are doing everything possible to cut the use of electricity. Even as we have load shedding, they are always called by Eskom to use less of their product, but at the same time they put up their prices. And of course, as people will heed that call and use less of their product, this pushes Eskom into a so-called utility debt spiral that ever-increasing prices reduce demand and therefore increase prices to cover the fixed cost of generation. So this is known as a utility debt spiral, and it's something that is facing Eskom as we speak. The solution is not simply to put up the prices every year to drive customers away.
Yeah. You know, I mean, there are solutions, and I know that you've come forward, you've spoken to them. I mean, in fact, you outlined them yesterday. 6 different solutions you've put on the table. Let's, I suppose, ask the question directly to you for people that haven't read what you are proposing. How can Eskom be saved? What can they do to realistically turn this current situation around?
Well, of course, ultimately, Eskom needs to be restructured because it's completely out of step with the modern electricity world. The world of electricity is changing radically. Eskom is still structured as it was 90 years ago, serving a completely different purpose in a completely different era. So restructuring of Eskom is fundamental, but this is not a quick fix, but a process that is going to take 5 years or more. So in the meantime, we've got to look to quick solutions. You've mentioned two. The one is the unlocking of the small-scale embedded generation sector. The other is to allow municipalities to become part of the solution and to generate electricity and to buy electricity from IPPs. We need to unlock the gas sector in South Africa. We need to look to energy storage, such as battery energy storage. There are a wealth of solutions, quick wins that should and could be done if we were to think out of the box and not simply try and protect the status quo and the limited number of jobs in the coal mining industry. We need to start looking way beyond that towards the future.
I know that at this point, I am going to say that we did invite public enterprises to come into studio with us. They said to us they would rather not come into studio. They're going to be having a media briefing a little bit later on today. So the Minister, Pravin Gordhan, meeting with Eskom executives to try and resolve the crisis. Is there any likelihood that the rather rocky relationship between the Minister and Eskom executives could be having a negative effect on us?
I don't think a negative effect. They did meet over the weekend, Friday, I think it was, where they looked at the problems of Eskom, both operational problems as well as financial problems. They have identified, for example, that skills is a huge problem and they need to get the right people in at the right place at the right time. The problem is that Eskom is a moratorium on employment of new people, and this is a matter that was discussed at length. It's not good enough just to have a moratorium of new people. One's really got to redeploy people and put the right people in at the right place. And this may mean employing more people, and it may mean retrenching people that simply are not performing or are not appropriate for the job at hand. So the skills issue is a massive problem. Coal quality is a massive problem. The whole procurement process is a massive problem. A very cumbersome and slow procurement process where, in fact, it might be better and quicker and more cost-efficient to form partnerships with original equipment manufacturers to be able to partner with these OEMs to hold spares and to be on site to perform high-level services, maintenance services that cannot be adequately performed by underskilled staff at Eskom. These are very specialist skills in demand worldwide, and one really does need to partner with the people that have these skills in order to deploy them quickly and properly.
Chris, let's talk to some of the rumours that are making the rounds. I mean, there's reports about our coal situation, and I think we need to address that. What is the coal situation like in the country, firstly? And secondly, there's also talk about better coal that's being exported, or that our coal supply is being exported to obtain better profits from China, and South Africa's coal supply is put on the back burner. Talk to us about the issues around coal and some of the rumours circulating.
Yeah, firstly, the rumours about China are not correct. China is not a big importer of South African coal. Countries like India, Indonesia, and other Far East countries certainly are big customers, but China has mountains of its own coal and certainly doesn't need much of our coal. In terms of quality, it is true that the global market price of coal is such that the small emerging miners, as well as the big miners, are exporting prices at exporting coal at better prices than Eskom can afford to pay or is prepared to pay. And this has in the past resulted in a shortfall of coal for the South African market, which resulted in declining stockpiles at Eskom. Eskom has in fact now been working on this problem, recapitalizing the so-called cost-plus mines, which can deliver, in fact, the cheapest coal. And in the past, these have been starved of capital in favor of the emerging miners. You may remember Mr. Malepi and his "we don't want to buy the bakery, we only want to buy the bread" strategy. Well, this strategy has resulted in the problems that we had. And this has now been overturned, and Eskom is now recapitalizing the cost-plus mines. to be able to deliver the cheapest coal to Eskom. I think this is a good move, and it is turning around the shortages that were experienced last year.
Okay. Chris, I leave it on this note, just this final note. Yesterday there was a press release put out, Eskom saying basically that reminding customers load shedding at stage 4 is no cause for alarm. Is it cause for alarm? It certainly feels like it should be a cause for alarm. However, they're telling us we mustn't worry. Should we be worried, Chris?
Yes, we should be very worried. The whole country should be worried, and Eskom should be worried. Customers of electricity should be worried. The economy of South Africa should be worried. This is extremely damaging to the whole country, and I don't think it's the right thing to say that we should not be worried. Of course, we are worried. The minister's worried. The president is worried, and that's the way it should be.
Chris Yelland, we leave it there, energy analyst, talking to us about the current situation with Eskom load shedding stage 4 and all issues surrounding what we can actually do to try and alleviate the situation. All right, let's leave it there. Thanks very much again to Chris. Let's take a break. We'll have the news at 7 after this. Stay tuned.